Joining me today, we have our Learning Solutions Engineer, Dominic Kaloya, and Rehearsal Account Executive, Micah Epler. They're going to show you some really cool stuff. And so without further ado, I will shut up and let them get started.
Welcome, everyone. How do you add active practice to your learning ecosystem? That's what we're going to discuss and show you today. Rehearsal is ELB Learning's video practice and coaching system. It's a cloud-based system, and it's available via web or mobile app. There's two ways of deploying Rehearsal. One is standalone, which means totally separate from whatever learning platform and delivery tools you're using. You could just use Rehearsal as a standalone platform to send out assignments, have people engaged in a video rehearsal program, or you could launch it from an LMS system. I'm using a SCORM program right now on ELB Learning's learning platform. And if I go to the next screen, right in the middle of a SCORM-based course, there could be a link for the user to rehearse. And it takes them right to the Rehearsal platform where they'll engage in this. I'm not going to show you that now, because I want to go back to the course and show you if you want to up the ante a little bit and get it more engaging. Many of you are probably already developing online training that involves a role play, and it's interactive where there's options. And this could be as long and as complicated, as involved as you want it to be. But at a certain point in this interaction, there can be a link to an interactive video rehearsal tool, which means you can integrate the rehearsal practice session directly in the training, or something that's going to add a lot of power, a lot of flexibility, and a lot of return on investment to your learning that is not easily found elsewhere. For one thing, it increases engagement. I got ×5. That's something that you're going to have to determine for yourself. But on average, users of the Rehearsal platform, users will practice 5.5 to 6 times before submitting a video to their manager. Now, if you're a little confused right now and say, well, what do you mean? Submitting a video to my manager? Micah, in a few moments, is actually going to demonstrate the whole Rehearsal tool. But Rehearsal gives you the ability to actually see what your learners are doing. Are they performing up to the criteria where you want them to perform? On a regular asynchronous LMS type of a platform where you're pushing learning to your learners, sure, you could do a quiz, you could do an assessment, you could do a poll to find out what they think and how well they did, but will they perform that well on the job? And then you can see, well, okay, I will wait and see 6 months later, have they improved, but have they improved enough? If they are not at the level of performance where you want them, and they're outselling or repping your company, how much dollars are you losing? How much income are you missing because they're not properly trained? The Rehearsal tool enables you to see exactly how Dominic is performing before you let Dominic go out on the sales floor. Basically, we have a proven formula that is a 3-step process. The tell portion, you guys are doing all that already. You're training your employees, you're giving them information. Showing is easy to do. Many online trainings have videos, they have demonstrations, live sessions where you actually show your employees how to do something. That's easy too. But the third component, to be actually to see how your employees are doing, that's not easy to integrate into your system. Of course, it is easy if you use Rehearsal. Now, these red arrows I have here shows that this can be a reiterative process. And by that, I mean embedded in your training, like I just showed you in this SCORM-based course. If you link to a video practice and your manager, the training manager, is asking you to demonstrate something, and then you click the record button and you record yourself doing something or saying something, and it gets sent to your manager, the manager can say one of two things. Stephanie, fantastic job. You aced it. I love the way you delivered that. Done. Or your manager could say, Dominic, I like the way you started, but you kind of faltered towards the end. And we were actually looking for our 3 pillars of strengths. Yeah, you only mentioned 2, but I love your delivery. Try it again. Make sure you get that 3rd component in there, and I'll show it'll be fantastic. And that returns it back to me, and I've got to redo the assignment. And that's where we get the reiterative, cyclical over and over and over again. And what's valuable about this is you're scaffolding, to use an e-learning term, you're supporting your employees, and you're nurturing them along the path to excellence. And you know that Dominic has reached the point of perfection when you can actually see him perform. That's one of the real powerful strengths of the rehearsal system. Another component of rehearsal is not only can users record videos and submit them to their manager or supervisor for review, but they can respond to posted videos and record their own videos and make text comments into the platform, which means it can be used to answer frequently asked questions where subject matter experts are responding to questions from the field. It can be used to share best practices. Salespeople out in the field encountering an objection or a situation for the first time and how they dealt with it, how they overcame with it, sharing best practices. And there's many other variations of this. This can be deployed if you want to from the platform, generating user content and creating that learning community that is so difficult sometimes to create. Now, how do we scale this? There's 3 elements to scaling this on a global scale. One is practice. One of the benefits of the rehearsal platform is that users will practice many times before submitting it to their manager. If you've ever heard people say, oh, I can't stand it when I hear my voice played back, I have a terrible voice. Well, guess what? It's 10,000 times more powerful, more so when people see their own video. I know when I record myself, it's very rare do I like the first recording. I do practice multiple times. If your employees are practicing their assignment many times before they submit it, therein your organization is getting a return on investment and improving the learning. I put down 20% just to give an indication that just that one piece alone can improve and make your learning more effective. The next component is Rehearsal provides some AI-based feedback. That means in real time, without having the cost of your employee meeting with their training manager, without having all the logistics and the expense of that, the employee gets some immediate real-time feedback on things like tone and pacing, eye contact. That also helps your learners be better performers. And I put down a number 35%. It's not hard-coded in science, but these are just estimates. But when you add the final component, having that virtual coaching feedback, someone in your organization seeing what Dominic and Stephanie are doing, if Micah could see what Dominic and Stephanie are doing and coach them to better and better performance, that's when you hit 100%. You can have the potential, the capability of bringing all of your employees to maximum performance, which is kind of boastful for a learning ecosystem. Now it comes to what's your strategy for improving your ecosystem? Do you like the performance-based coaching that I just spoke about? Do you want to integrate that into your learning platform? Do you want to make sure that your employees have attained a certain level of performance? I call it certification. Mike is going to show you how this works, where there's no practice this time. Dom, you've been in the course. You've had plenty of time to practice. Now I want to see you do it. 3, 2, 1, the camera starts, no practice. I got to go. Then there's a learning culture that I just spoke about. where users can share content and learn from each other. Or maybe you're looking to implement mobile learning in your learning ecosystem. The Rehearsal has a mobile app that does just that, where everything can take place via the mobile phone. And then I put down personalized learning. There's a lot of buzz in the industry now about unique learning paths and personalized learning. Mike is also going to show how you can build some pretty sophisticated and complicated branching scenarios that's mostly or partly automated to get some sophisticated personalized learning path learning taking place. And all this wrapped up with some abilities to roll this out at scale. I mentioned earlier that the one-to-one coaching doesn't take place until there's been some individual practice in their safe place, where there's been some learning from AI feedback, all done automatically without taking the time and expense of your manager. And the fact that it can all be done virtually, this can literally be scaled out on a global scale efficiently and cost effectively. Before I introduce Micah, there'll be a poll at the end that'll invite you to schedule for a demo for your organization. And also we have a couple of documents showing various use cases. They're available on request. And with that, Mike has been patiently waiting for me to stop talking, and I'll turn it over to Micah for him to give you a deep dive into the Rehearsal platform.
Perfect. Thanks, Dom. I really appreciate that. And thank you, everybody, for taking the time to join the session today. As Dom mentioned, my name is Micah Epler. I'm an account executive here with Rehearsal. I've been with the organization since 2020, working specifically on this Rehearsal platform. So I'm very excited to show it all to you today. As Dom referred to, right, Rehearsal is an asynchronous video-based practice coaching and collaboration platform. And from a use case standpoint, we most often see it used across three main use cases, which are sales and sales enablement, leadership training, and new hire employee onboarding. However, the platform is extremely agile and can fit to whatever the use case is. As a matter of fact, we see it used with many hard skills as well. One being an organization that practices utilizing Rehearsal to have reps out in the field show that they know how to properly fix and repair cell phones. So that has nothing to do with communication or soft skills whatsoever. It's literally showcasing hard skills and being able to get coaching and feedback on those capabilities. Okay. So as I go through the demo here, please utilize the chat, please utilize the Q&A. We want this to be an engaging session here. I'm sure if you have a question, I'm sure others within the session here have the exact same questions. So let's make sure we get those out and open, and let's have a dialogue and not have me talk at you for the next 45 minutes, okay? So to hop into the demo, I am showing you all the web version of Rehearsal today. As Dom referred to earlier, we do have native iOS and Android apps. If you've got remote workers or people out in the field, you want them to be able to access this platform on a mobile device, whether that be on a smartphone or a tablet, and whether it be iOS or Android, they can do so, okay? So when I'm logged in here in Rehearsal, I'm logged in as an end user, I'm brought to the assignments tab. And you can see here, I've got some assignments that have been given to me based on my role within the organization, based on where I'm at within my training, just based on where I'm at in my professional career here. So each assignment here has its own start and end date and is broken down into individual, we call these scenarios in the platform. That's specific vernacular to Rehearsal. However, you can consider them micro learning modules. They're just individual pieces of a skill set, of a workflow, of a talk track, of a process that you are having me practice. So let's go ahead and hop in and see what a standard mentor feedback scenario looks like within Rehearsal. I'm going to hop into this success story scenario here. So you'll notice a lot of my content is kind of tailored towards sales and sales enablement, but I'll try to talk to it in terms of the leadership training and the new hire employee onboarding use cases as well. You'll notice that each scenario here within Rehearsal is comprised of 4 parts, right? We've got our front end prompt video here. This is going to be the front end of a video role play or simply the video based instructions, okay? As we scroll on down, there's a spot for further text-based instructions. Maybe we want to include more context around what's going on within the role play, or we want to provide really clear expectations in terms of what we're looking to get out of the learner, or maybe we want to link out to some material here. We can type in whatever we want in this section. You also have the ability to create a grading rubric when you build these scenarios in Rehearsal. And if you do so, we give the learners visibility into what the criteria within that rubric are. Number one, for transparency's sake, but quite honestly, if we do a good job labeling these criteria, this is a really great way to drive the correct behavior out of the learners in their practice as well. And then lastly, there's a spot over here for attachments. So I'm sure many of you already have training material content that you'd like to utilize to supplement this activity. So you can include that here. So there could be a tips and tricks Word doc, or you can see I've got a case study in PDF format here. This could be a training video, best practice video, audio file, any combination of all of those. You can add them as attachments over here. So all this information is customizable to every scenario that you build within Rehearsal and is meant for the learner to review prior to practicing. So once I, as the learner, have reviewed that information, I would come on up here to the prompt video and prepare to practice.
Wow, sounds like you guys have some pretty cool stuff going on. But I always like to do my due diligence. So can you tell me about some success stories that some of your clients have had?
Okay. So again, it's my demo site. We keep it super generic. Everybody can relate to a success story. And so from here, I now know that I, as the learner, I'm talking to a prospect and he wants to hear about some success stories from some of our clients. So from here, there's a really clean user experience. I got two gigantic buttons. I can either record a video if I'm actively practicing this skill set within the platform, or I could upload a video if for whatever reason we took a video outside of the platform. I could come in, upload that as my response, and be able to get coaching and video on that one. However, I'm actively practicing, so I'll go ahead, I'll click the record button. The platform will access the camera and the microphone. Now you see me picture in picture here. I click the start recording button. I get a 3, 2, 1 countdown. And now I'm on the stage. Now I would get the opportunity to go ahead and practice telling that success story. Or maybe if this was a leadership training use case, I might be practicing having a difficult conversation with one of my members on my team. I can certainly talk for as long as I want. And when I'm done, I'll click that stop recording button. And the first thing that's going to happen is that this video is going to automatically play back. So I have to see myself, I have to hear myself, and I have to decide whether or not I did a good job on this. And now I'm on the stage. Now I would get the opportunity to go ahead and practice telling that success. Okay, so as you can see, I can watch that video all the way back through. And again, really clean user experience here. Red button, bad, green button, good type situation. I can either discard that recording and practice again, or I can submit that video into the platform for coaching and review, both from the AI standpoint and from a mentor as well on the back end. Now, to Dom's point earlier, what we have found within Rehearsal is that learners are by far their own harshest critics, right? And this is where that employee engagement comes from. So we've seen historically that learners are clicking that discard recording button 5.6 times on average before ever submitting a video, before ever getting any sort of feedback or any sort of coaching. So they're starting to build this comfortability and experiential knowledge around this particular skill set or talk track, thing that they're practicing. So we're starting to build that foundation, and now we can get coaching and feedback to where we can get even more detail oriented on this particular skill as we go. One thing to note is that we do want Rehearsal to be a safe place for learners to practice. We want them to feel like they can push themselves outside of their comfort zones and make mistakes, because that's where real learning and real growth happens, right? It's not in your typical role play per se, where maybe you're in a breakout room, you're doing it with a manager, you're role playing in front of a couple of peers, and you're really just trying not to screw up. You're trying to not look like an idiot, right? That's really what it comes down to. So you're not actually getting better in that situation. You're just trying to get through it as best you can, and you're probably sweating through your shirt a little too much. So within Rehearsal, we want you to feel like you can make those mistakes, push yourselves outside of your comfort zones, and actually get better at this skill. So if a learner does discard a video, that video is completely gone. Nobody ever sees it. I can't go get it. My mentor doesn't see it. None of that. Okay. On that same vein, though, if a learner does take 5 tries on this particular scenario, but they go, oh, gosh, that second one, that was the best one I did. Well, that video is gone. We can't go get it. So we have to keep working through this until we absolutely nail it and submit it in the platform. For the sake of our time today, though, we'll say that video that I just took right here is good. I'm going to go ahead. I'm going to click submit. I get a prompt that says, hey, are you sure you want to do that? Which I do. I click OK, and that's going to do two things. Number one, that's going to start the upload of that video, which is going to append itself here to this scenario in the platform, kicking off what we like to call the conversation thread. The other thing it's going to do is it's going to send a notification out to whoever's been assigned to me as my mentor, letting them know that I've submitted a video and they need to go in and provide some feedback. And as a matter of fact, I'll go ahead and show you all this. I've got the mobile app on my phone, so I got the push notification that came across, and then I also got the email notification that came across as well. So that's how our notifications work. Push notifications with the mobile, email notifications no matter what. Just going to go ahead and throw this out there. Please make sure if any questions do come up again, just put them in the QA, put them in the chat. Let's make sure that we get those answered, we get those addressed. So we'll go ahead and we'll move forward here. So every time a learner submits a video in the platform, this view your rehearsal AI report button shows up. And I'm actually just going to go ahead and hop into another scenario here simply because I've got this report pre-populated. However, on any scenario within the platform, right, once the learner practices and submits their video, they can click on this view your rehearsal AI report button. And what this report is this is a sentiment analysis report. So learners are getting automatic, unbiased, algorithmic-based feedback on how they did across 9 different points of sentiment analysis. So they can see how they did with things like eye contact, facial expression, articulation, logic, pace, tone. We can track articulation throughout the entirety of this video. Same thing with the facial expressions, where it's trending positively or negatively, as well as the pacing. I think about this when it comes to a sales use case like overcoming objections. If I'm practicing overcoming an objection, I need to keep my pacing nice and ideal. If I start redlining up here when I'm overcoming that objection, a prospect is going to smell that out a mile away. We can watch this video and you'll see the blue line will track across this graph here. New AI report looks at different scopes so that we can correlate what's being said to when things are starting to go haywire. This report will do an audio transcription and search for filler words. We can view that transcription. It'll pull what we say word for word and highlight those filler words within that transcription so we can look to clean up our messaging, get rid of the ums, get rid of the likes, get rid of the you knows, those things that are just distractions in our conversation pieces. As a matter of fact, I'm absolutely a just person. I say just way too often. Comes across in my emails too. I'm working on it, getting better, you know. The last thing is you also get a relative comparison. Hey, how did I do against the average of my peers who also did this exact same scenario on each of these 9 different points of sentiment analysis? And I can click on each one and get a little bit of platform-based feedback on all of these. So you'll notice in this report, there's no scoring here. There's no grading. We're not leaving it up to the AI to provide the grade or tell you really how you did. But what we are utilizing is the data points that we're capturing, and we want to make them visible so that we can utilize this data to validate or unvalidate somebody's perception and how they're coming across their video, and allow it to be visible to mentors as well so that they can utilize this data to provide some significant coaching and feedback, right? Something that's got some meat on the bones, not just coming in here and saying, you know, good job or try again. We got to really provide some information for these learners to actually utilize to get better.
Hey, Micah, we did have a question that popped up in the chat.
Yep.
And you might be covering this later, but does Rehearsal integrate with other LMSs or HR systems that people might be using?
This is a great question. We can go ahead and address it right now as we go here. So Rehearsal, absolutely. First and foremost, it supports single sign-on. Okay. Within how we integrate with third-party systems like an LMS, like a CRM, like an HR system, is that each scenario here within Rehearsal has its own unique URL. So what you would do is you would take this link, you're going to link it, you're going to deep link it wherever at in the learning journey within that system. And Dom talked about how we can get even more integrated by utilizing ELB's Rockstar Learning Platform LMS. Okay, but for other systems other than that, when you take this link it, deep link it wherever at in the learning journey, the learner would click on it. It would pop open as another tab because the data because the content's still hosted here in Rehearsal. Through the utilization of the single sign-on, they wouldn't have to log in. We can just pass credentials, so it would bring them into here. They can go ahead and do the activity and close it out and be right back into whatever system they came from. Also on that same vein, we do have a public API that organizations can utilize to be able to do data calls. So whatever data we're capturing in rehearsal, you can call that data and pull it back into whatever system, your LMS, into a BI tool to create visuals if you so choose, and things of that nature. So that's how we integrate with other systems.
Great, thank you so much.
Yep, good question. Really great question. Please keep them coming. Okay, so let's hop over to the admin side of the platform. Normally, if I'm just somebody's mentor, this would actually just be the mentor side of the platform. As an admin here in my platform, of course, I see content creation tabs and user management and things like that. If this is, just somebody's manager, somebody's coach, right, a regional manager, something like that, when they come into the platform, they're only going to see this review tab. So they're not going to come in here and go get lost or come foul up our content or start messing with users and things like that. Okay, so I, as Micah, the learner's coach, manager, trainer, whatever title you want to put on me, when I come to the review tab here, I've got a queue of all these different scenarios that I've been assigned to as the mentor. Based on the icon over here, we know where we're at in the workflow and if we need to take action or not. Bigger exclamation point. That's obviously a call to action. And here's that scenario that was just submitted just 5 minutes ago. So I can go ahead and I can click into that scenario. First and foremost, I, as the mentor, to see all of the original scenario information so I can review that if I need to. As I scroll on down to the conversation thread, there's that learner's video. I, as the mentor, have the ability to view that AI report too if I need to. But I can go ahead, I can watch this video and start to prepare my feedback. And now I'm on the stage. Now I would get the opportunity to go ahead and practice. Okay? And then from here, we've got a multitude of ways that we can provide feedback. First and foremost is that we can leave a comment. Cool thing about being able to leave a comment is not only can the feedback be text and or video based, but we can associate that comment with a specific time within that learner's video. So you notice I pause it at 4 seconds. When I pull up this comment, right, it brings it to 4 seconds. I can move it around if I want to. All right. So obviously on a 29-second video, time-based feedback isn't necessary, but if we've got any sort of lengthier video that maybe is a couple minutes or more, we want to leave feedback at 37 seconds and at 1:14 and at 2:22. And we can do that by providing multiple comments. Most often we see comments utilized when we've got multiple mentors assigned to a particular scenario. It's a common question that we get. Can we have more than one person providing feedback on these scenarios? The answer is absolutely, and you can control the permissions that each one has. So we might have somebody that is going through a leadership training program and we want to get them started into providing coaching and feedback. Well, we can set their permissions to where they can only leave comments, because comments here within Rehearsal don't move the workflow along at all. The learner can see the feedback, read the feedback, watch the feedback, all those things, but it's not prompting them to do anything. So most often we see that left up to the manager or to whoever's really owning this workflow, in which case they might prompt the learner for a new response where, again, they can leave text and or video-based feedback. Hey, Micah, that was a good job of telling that success story. You just forgot to talk about the ROI and the financial benefit that the customer gets out of utilizing the platform. Go back in, integrate that into your story. Can't wait to see what you come up with. And then that would prompt the learner for a new response. So we can go back and forth in this asynchronous fashion until we get to a level of sufficiency that we're comfortable with. Or the other thing that we see is that mentors will submit for final review. So we'll say that video was good. We can submit for final review. When we do this, again, we can still leave our text and our video-based feedback, but now here comes the grading rubric that we built on the front end when we built this scenario. So we can go ahead and grade the learner out on their performance. You as an organization have full control over how little or how many grading criteria are here. You can change what they're what they're labeled and what they're called, and you can change the scoring scale to be anything out of up to 100. So make it a 1-point scale, 3-point scale, 5-point scale, a 37-point scale if you like prime numbers, whatever you want to do. It's totally up to you. Same process here for the mentors when it comes to providing feedback, right? Mentors need practice too. They click their start recording button. They get a 3, 2, 1 countdown. Micah, that was a fantastic job of telling that success story. I really like what you came up with. As a matter of fact, I think a lot of other people from the team can learn from that success story. So I just want to let you know we're going to be promoting that video to the leaderboard. Congratulations. Micah, that was a fantastic job of telling that success. Okay, so same process as I mentioned. Mentors can discard if they need to. We'll go ahead, we'll click submit. That video will upload. Mentors always need to finish with the publish button. So we click the publish button, that launches multiple actions here. And when we do so, that's going to effectively close out this scenario. So now if I scroll to the top, now I see, right, no more big red exclamation point. I've got a big green check mark. I can see the conversation status is closed here. We can see the score that we've given our learner. And then I just mentioned the fact that Rehearsal has a leaderboard, and Rehearsal's leaderboard is simply meant to be a repository of best practices, right? So I really like to think about it in two ways, right? You've got people who have really great business acumen or communication skills or sales skills, right? They're people that just kill their number all the time, or they really can show empathy when having conversations with people, when we're talking about like from a customer service use case or something like that. How do we capture what these people do in these scenarios in a way that's visible and digestible to other learners in the platform, so that those other learners can go in and review some of these videos and hopefully impart some of what they see into their own practice. So it's this concept of, if we've got our bell curve, we're capturing what's happening at the top of the bell curve up here and making that visible so that hopefully we can upskill the bottom of that bell curve just this much. How do we make them better, right? Utilizing user-created content, quite honestly. So I, as the mentor, can scroll down to this video that we want to highlight as a best practice. Right underneath this video is this add this response to the leaderboard button. I can click on that. It brings up this section. Typically, we see two things typed in here. Number one, we want to give credit where credit is due. That's going to help drive performance and activity here within the platform. When people see other people getting kudos, they want those kudos. It's going to make them try harder. All right. Secondarily, since this is going to be visible to others in the platform, we would want to type in here why this video is good and what we want people to learn from it. I'm not going to do either of those. I'm just going to say this is great. Maybe, if I know how to type. Okay. I can send it to the leaderboard. So back over here on the learner side of things, I'm getting all these notifications that are coming across as all of these things are happening. I'm getting them on my phone. I'm getting them in my email. But over here on the learner side, now Micah, the learner, can see, right? I can see my big green check mark. I can see my score over here. If I click on into this scenario, I can scroll on down through the conversation thread here. So there's my original video, still lives there. Right underneath that in red, everything's color coded in terms of what kind of video submission it is here in the conversation thread. The red means it's submitted for final review. I can see that mentor's feedback video. It looks a whole lot cleaner when it's not the same face back to back, but I think everybody understands what we're doing here. And then I can see the breakdown of the scoring rubric as well. So let's say, for instance, I was a learner who had not practiced this scenario yet, but I wanted to check that leaderboard to see if there were some of those best practice videos for me to review. Right here at the top of the scenario page, I can click this View Peer Responses button, and it'll take me to the leaderboard pre-filtered for just that scenario that I was just working on. Or likewise, from the home page, I could easily click on the leaderboard over here on the left-hand side. And now I see all the videos from all of my colleagues who have been assigned to the same scenarios that I have. So I'm only seeing stuff that's in my purview. So if I'm not part of the leadership training program, I'm not going to see leaderboard submissions from that. I'm only going to see stuff that's in the sales program or whatever it might be. Okay, so I can scroll on down here. There's my video that was just posted. I can see all these other videos, but I could come in here. You know, I'm out on the West Coast. Maybe I've got a colleague, Alex. Maybe he's on the East Coast. Maybe I've never even talked to Alex before, but I could come in here and I could learn from his success story.
Great question. One of my favorite success stories to share
Okay,
is
so I can watch his video. I can watch all the way through, and then I can see his note from his mentor as to why this video is good and what I'm supposed to learn from it. And then we have the ability to drive a little bit of socialization, a little bit of gamification here by being able to like videos on the leaderboard, because we can certainly come in here, filter it by the most liked, and see which videos are the best of the best or which videos are the most impactful. So I'll take a quick pause there for anybody, so anything in the chat. So that's a standard mentor feedback scenario within the platform. That's the most involved scenario, but we did cover the learner piece, right? How the learner responds, the AI report, the mentor feedback capability, and the leaderboard. Are there any questions or anything?
We do have one question that came in, Micah. Is
Yeah,
there
go for
a
it.
maximum file size for the videos that you're uploading?
There is not. As a matter of fact, we've got an organization that is in the healthcare industry that submits 45-minute to an hour-long videos in here. I wouldn't suggest that necessarily, but they do have that. But you can do it, and they do it.
All right, so whatever your needs are, you can submit the video.
They can be met. Absolutely. Nilesh, you got it. Happy to help. Okay, we'll keep the questions coming, but I will go ahead. I'll keep on moving here. So Dom, one of his points that he talked about was this ability to scale one-on-one coaching, and making this kind of video-based practice, making it scalable is really important. So Rehearsal has what we call our intelligent journey capabilities, and really what they are is their scaling options, right? So we need to be able to be more strategic in when we're getting mentors involved in providing coaching and feedback. And there might be these types of scenarios or skills that we need people to just go in and practice, where we say, hey, Mr. and Mrs. Learner, we need you to go in and practice this thing. You're going to get out of it what you put into it. But once you go ahead and submit your video, you can go ahead and move on to this next task or this next scenario in Rehearsal. So we can set something up, a scenario up to be an autocomplete. So for example, this introduce yourself scenario, right? We don't necessarily need a coach or a mentor to get involved in this. So I, as the learner, can come in here. I can take my video. I can practice many times I want. But once I submit my video, hi, my name is Micah Epler. I'm an account executive here with ELB Learning, and I am based out of Redding, California. Hi, my name is Micah. Again, once I go ahead and I submit my video, this scenario is automatically marked as complete, and I'm able to go ahead and move on to the next scenario here within this assignment. Now, this doesn't mean that I can't get coaching and feedback on it. As a matter of fact, a mentor would still get notified on this particular scenario, and they would have the ability to go in and leave that commentary feedback if they've got the time in their day, or given their other responsibilities to do so. But we're just not reliant. We're not leaving it on that mentor to fall onto their shoulders to close out this particular workflow. Okay, so you can set scenarios up to be an autocomplete. There's three other capabilities that fall under our intelligent journey umbrella, and I'll cover all three of them here in this one scenario. So we have what's called our text analysis capability. And what that is that on any particular scenario, you can set up a keyword bank of up to 25 keywords and set the threshold for the number of keywords that the learner has to mention in their response in order to quote unquote pass. Okay? If for whatever reason, a learner does not mention the required number of keywords, right? They fail that text analysis gate. We can do what's called content branching. And what that is it's going to, the platform will take them to a learning module that can be text-based, video-based, attachments-based, whatever you want to set up for this particular learner that they have to review prior to practicing again. So we're looking to eliminate the guess and check out of this. So that's content branching. So text analysis, content branching. And then lastly here, you'll see we've went ahead and we created a grading rubric for this particular scenario, but as you can see, it's written to be learner facing. That's because we can take any scenario here within the platform, make it a true self-assessment. So we're going to flip it around and say, hey, Mr. and Mrs. Learner, why don't you tell us how comfortable you feel talking about this topic? Did you do X? Did you do Y? Did you do Z? And just let the learner drive that experience. So I'll show you all three of these capabilities. Let's go ahead and hop into them. In this first video, I'm going to go ahead and purposely fail, which hurts my heart a little bit, but just so I can show you content branching. In this first video, okay, we'll go ahead, we'll submit that. We'll click OK. While that video uploads on the back end, the platform is doing the audio transcription. It's looking for those keywords and is going to be highlighting those keywords within that audio transcription. It's typically a 1-to-1 ratio in terms of how long it takes, right? On a 7-second video, this won't take very long here. Like I said, about a 1-to-1 ratio in terms of how long it takes to filter it through, do the audio transcription, and give us back our information. I don't know if anybody's counting. It's the longest 7 seconds ever. Of course, it's running a little bit slow, but that's okay. We'll wait for it a second.
While it's analyzing, Micah, do
Yep.
you want to respond to this question? Jill wants to know, what would a mentor do if someone submits a video that's just like pretty bad, like it identifies that someone needs a lot of coaching? How would you suggest the mentors handle that?
Yep, absolutely. On something like that, that actually falls into the culture of each organization, right? They might handle each one a different way, but I would just simply start out by utilizing that prompting the learner for a new response, but I would keep it really basic. Let's actually, if it's just really bad, let's identify one main piece that might be really low hanging fruit that we could get better really quickly and provide that kind of feedback and just prompt the learner for a new response and say, hey, why don't we just focus on this aspect of this response here first, and let's nail that, and then we can build on that. So because within the platform, if you prompt the learner for a new response, they can then respond. You can prompt them to practice again as many times as you want to. So you can continue to build through that conversation thread and go back and forth as many times as you need to. So it would be a great way to build rapport, identify some low hanging fruit, get a little bit better, build their confidence a little bit, and just build on each component of that response. That's a great question.
Awesome. Thank you.
Yep. Okay. So back to this. Sorry it took so long. Right. However, you can see here, we only mentioned one of the keywords that we identified when we built this scenario. I can view the transcript. It'll pull, what I said word for word, and it'll highlight the keyword within that response. However, we set the threshold where I have to mention at least 3. So I've effectively failed this text analysis gate. And since I did so, here comes the content branching, right? Now I've got to review some material prior to practicing again. So again, this would be something that you can create. It can be text-based, it can be video-based, it can be attachments, all those kinds of things. I can watch this video all the way through. That happens to be a video of the Rehearsal AI mobile interface. But once I've reviewed this information, now I can return to the scenario and try again. So once I click on that, it brings me back in here. And now I'm back to this situation here where I can only record or upload. So now that I've reviewed that information, I feel better about what I'm about to do, and I'll hop back in here and I'll do it again. The value of Rehearsal's intelligent journeys is to allow organizations to do video-based practice at scale while creating a time savings for mentors, because they're not getting bogged down with having to respond to each and every video that's getting submitted to them in the platform by a learner. The value of Rehearsal's intelligent journeys. Okay, so again, we'll go ahead, we'll submit, click OK. And again, that'll run in the background. It'll pull what we say word for word. Just so everybody knows, on the back end of this, within Rehearsal's reporting capabilities, you do have visibility into how many times a learner is discarding or submitting a video. You can see when their first submission was, when their last submission was. You can see things like how they did on each, how they scored overall on a particular scenario, and we can break that even further down and how they scored onto each criteria. You can see who the mentor was, whether or not a video was posted to the leaderboard. All of those things. I'm sure reporting was going to be a topic, so just wanted to cover that right away. So here we go on this particular video that I just submitted. Now I mentioned 5 of the keywords, so that's great. Again, I can view that transcript. It'll pull and it'll highlight those keywords that I said, even the ones that I say multiple times, so we can keep track of that as well. So we know that we set the threshold to be 3 keywords. We know I mentioned 5, so I've effectively passed that text analysis gate, right? That almost acts as a qualifier. Now that this video is qualified, now I'm able to go ahead and now do the self-assessment, which is grade my response, in which case when I click on that, again, it brings up this rubric that we custom built for this scenario. How comfortable do I feel talking about this topic? I feel pretty good about it. Did I talk about scalability? I did. I talked about the time savings for mentors. Yep. I kept my response under 60 seconds. I did that as well. If I didn't do any of those, I'd simply just uncheck the box, but I did do them all. Now I submit. That's going to give me my grade. As you can see here, 92.31%. You do have the ability on these scenarios as well to set notifications up if a learner grades themselves below a certain percentage. That's an obvious cry for some coaching and some feedback, so a mentor can come in here and provide that. But likewise, if a learner grades themselves above a certain percentage, we do want to come in and maybe review that and potentially highlight that video as a best practice on the leaderboard. But now that I've finished that scenario, now as you can see, I've actually completed this entire assignment and have only had 1 mentor engagement through that entire assignment. Okay, we've got about 15 minutes left. I want to make sure that we do leave some time for some question and answers. So let me touch on a couple of other things that Rehearsal does. Dom talked about certification being one key point and one use case that you can utilize within Rehearsal, and how we go about that is what's called our hot seat scenario. So within a hot seat scenario, this is patented technology to Rehearsal, by the way. I'm not going to make you read this, but the learner does have to click these 2 boxes so they understand what's about to happen to them. But when they go into the scenario, you'll notice the scenario looks relatively the same, except for there's no record or upload button. That's because in a hot seat scenario, once the learner plays this prompt video, when that prompt video ends, the platform automatically launches the camera and the microphone, starts that 3, 2, 1 countdown, and the learner has 1 shot to go ahead and nail whatever it is that the scenario is asking them to do. In this case, it's an elevator pitch. So let's take a look at that.
It's important to have clear messaging. So in a short elevator pitch, succinctly describe what we do.
Classic me wearing the same shirt in that scenario as I am right now. Okay. But that scenario ended, camera started, and now I've got to go. I got 1 shot to go ahead and nail my elevator pitch. If I'm completely unprepared, if coffee comes spilling out of my nose, that's going to suck for me. And Stephanie would laugh at me if she was my mentor. But that's a hot seat scenario. Got to be ready. So you'll notice there I click stop. The video does not automatically play back. It's just going to get submitted for a coaching and review on the back end. So we see this utilized in a lot of, pre-post work with training, right? Pre-work, allow people to introduce themselves to this concept in this scenario, maybe have them do a couple practices in the middle, and then, post a training or something like that, send them out of hot seat. Let's validate how much of it stuck, how much of it, stuck with us, how much we retained, and validate that we know that we can perform it, right, in an active practice scenario as opposed to a passive learning where I watched a video, read about it, talked to somebody about it. Now let's see if I can actually put it into practice. A couple of other things that you can do. We have many organizations that utilize rehearsal in a call center situation with customer service or outbound sales. If you do so, you have the ability to on these scenarios, you can set them up to be audio only. There are people that are doing stuff over the phone. Again, they can see the video and all this information. However, when they go to record, the platform will just access the audio component as opposed to the video component as well, and we can just work off of this audio file. This really depends on the culture, again, of the organization. Some organizations, even in a call center situation, they want to see you. They want to be able to see those nonverbals because whether or not you're smiling affects your tone and how you're coming across and all those things. But some organizations want to give learners the ability to be on video or not if they so choose, or they just want to simply work off of this audio component. Lastly, here we've got a screen recorder built into the platform here within Rehearsal, and we see this utilized in a new hire situation an awful lot with like system certification or something like that. Whoops, that's not the one I want. Hold, please. In which case, in this scenario, the screen recorder that Rehearsal has built in would allow you to, we can still capture the video, we can still capture the audio, but then also we're going to capture whatever's going on the screen with this particular learner. So maybe it's a sales presentation, maybe they've got a sales deck pulled up. Again, it could be more of a customer success, customer support, customer service type of situation where we're helping somebody navigate a website or something like that. Or maybe, like I said, with a new hire situation, it's system certification. If you've got a CRM, like, I don't know, Salesforce, for instance, you want the learner to be able to go in and show you that they properly know how to input an opportunity into Salesforce so you can confirm that your data is nice and clean. So when we do utilize the screen recorder, you'll see you can hear me, see me, and then you'll see how I'm navigating my screen with my cursor here.
Okay, so through our Rehearsal screen recorder, we can also capture something that I know you all want to do, which is things like system certification for life.
Okay, so I'm not going to play the whole 30-second video, but you get the idea here. So a couple of questions that I see are coming up in the chat. So from Nilesh, can the recorded file be imported into the Institute's cloud or server? That's a great question. So there's 3 types of users in the platform, right? There's learners, there's mentors, there's admins. For security reasons, learners and mentors do not have the ability to download content out of Rehearsal. However, admins do have the ability to download that content, and they can save it locally and host it on another system or something like that. So that's how we would go about that. And then Jill actually asked, can you have an interactive scenario? So Jill, I'm going to say the answer is sort of, okay. Rehearsal is absolutely meant to be an asynchronous platform, right? This idea that we don't have to coordinate schedules. We don't have to, hop on another Zoom call. We don't have to be live together in order to do it. However, if you did want to capture some sort of live interaction, you would need to utilize another system, let's say like Zoom, like we're doing here, in which case you can utilize the screen recorder within Rehearsal while you're also on Zoom or on Teams or something like that to capture an interaction. It's a true workaround. There are some nuances to it. Like if I was to try to do one right now, but I have my headset on, it's only going to capture my audio. It's not going to capture everybody else's audio. So it really is a true workaround, but the answer is that we can do it. So it would look like this.
I think it's fine. And I have to fill them all. Dean's like, leave the little one in the middle blank. I'm like,
she's actually talking about bento boxes. I just kind of I did this on a whim and pulled it up. So you do have the ability to do it. So it is a true workaround, but we can. Good question. Okay, the last thing that I want to cover is our channels capability. So as I mentioned off the top, and that Dom mentioned, right, this growing network, right, Rehearsal is meant to be a video-based practice coaching and collaboration platform. Channels is meant to be the collaborative side of our platform. So the assignment side, everything I've shown you so far is very, one-to-one or one-to-few in terms of practice and feedback. Hello, what are we doing here? But again, channels is meant to be the collaborative side. So within channels, you can cohort people or take a team of people and put them into their own channel. And now everybody that's assigned to that channel can see all of the content that is being input in there, like from other peers and things like that. So for instance, let's say we've got a West Coast sales team. Anybody who's assigned to the West Coast sales team channel here can see everybody else's video. So maybe we still have a manager or a moderator in this particular channel. We can still post that prompt video. Maybe we've got a new product coming out. And now all of the learners that are assigned to this channel would post their videos in here, but now everybody can see everybody else's video. So I can come in here and watch my colleague Andrew's video, for instance, and learn from his video or leave feedback.
Michael, this is great. I'm so excited we have the opportunity.
That's actually done on the Rehearsal mobile app that's in the Denver airport. But again, other learners, right, from a more peer-to-peer standpoint would then have the ability to come in, leave comments, ask questions, share experiences, answer FAQs, right, ask for help, all those things through comments under people's videos, so we can really socialize and collaborate in this way within the platform as well. Okay. We see oftentimes too, channels are created between, just as a one-on-one channel, like an open flowing channel between a manager and a rep or something like that. You can have one-on-one channels, or you can do a peer-to-peer type of channel where it's just one-to-one. There's lots of different ways that we see this utilized. But again, this is meant to be the collaborative side. So when you purchase Rehearsal, you get all of them. We've got some customers who just utilize assignments and don't utilize channels. We've got some customers who only utilize channels and don't touch assignments at all. And we've got everything in between. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and stop there. That was like drinking from a fire hose, but we covered an awful lot in terms of what you can do within the platform, how you would address a lot of these topics, like building a culture of improvement, right? Increasing learner engagement, scaling one-on-one practice, different use cases that you can utilize this for, and how you'd go about doing all of them. So definitely, if anybody has any additional questions, let's make sure that we get those answered here within the last 5 minutes. And again, to Dom's point that he mentioned earlier, we will be sending out a follow-up after this where you can schedule a demo with us, where we can get more into the admin side of like how to build content. We can discuss your specific use cases for your teams more clearly and demo this for others from your team, key stakeholders or people that this would highly influence as well. So if any of that, please reach out to us. We'd love to engage with you and do that as well.
Thank you, Micah. We did have a really great question come in from Kat just now. Is Rehearsal offered in any other languages?
Ooh, what a great question, Kat. So the answer is absolutely. So over here in my profile, and when we set up learners in a particular channel, we can set what their language is. So the platform does support 13 different languages. So within here, right, we English, Chinese, French, German, all of these here. As you can see, if I did want to change it to Spanish, for instance, I took 3 years in high school. It's about the depth of my knowledge, right? If I change it to Spanish and I go ahead and I refresh the page, now you'll notice that all of the information or all of the verbiage here within the platform is changed to Spanish. Now, this doesn't mean that the content that you've got in the platform is going to translate as well, right? If you've built an English-based scenario, you will need to then create a Spanish-based scenario as well and push that out to your Spanish speakers. But within the platform, we do support multiple languages here.
Awesome. And then is there a time limit for how long recordings are stored in Rehearsal?
Another great question. So as long as a learner is active, as long as their profile is active here on the platform, their content is going to be available for you to go back and get. And again, here on the profile, right, we can even see a submission history for the learner that goes back as far as they've input data in on it. Okay, so when you do delete a user out of the profile, all of their content is tied to that profile. So when you delete them, all of their content would go with them.
Awesome. And then I think there was a question earlier about reminder notifications. Can you set up reminders and due dates for the courses? And how does that work? Does it come through email, in the app? Do you get push notifications?
Yep. So the reminder notifications work just the same as the other notifications, right? They will come through as email notifications, but then also if the learner or the mentor has the mobile app, it would come through in from a push notification as well. Here within the platform on these assignments, when you are setting them up, when you're going to push them out to the users, you can decide the start and end date and what time on those days it's going to go live, and it's dynamic and will what's the word I wanted? It's dynamic enough where it'll recognize what time zone each learner is in. So it'll go at 8 a.m. for each learner. And then from a notification standpoint down here, you do have reminder notifications for learners, right? If we want to remind them, hey, this assignment just started or it's about to end, right? We want to remind them 72 hours before it ends, 48 hours before it ends, 24 hours before it ends, 6 hours before, and you can change these, and you can change the messaging that's going out to them too if you want to. And then you also have reminder notifications for mentors as well, because that timely feedback for these learners is really important to the success of Rehearsal. And so after a learner submits a video within the platform, you can set up reminder notifications to go out to mentors 6 hours from when they submitted, 24 hours, 48, etc.
Awesome. Thank you for showing that. I think that's all the questions, which is perfect because we are about 2 minutes before our scheduled ending time. So Great job, Micah, fitting in all of that information. I did post a link in the chat to schedule a demo if you'd like to get a personalized demo, if you want to see specific features in more detail. As Micah mentioned, we have case studies from a variety of industries. So if you're looking to get a little bit more information about how a company maybe in your industry has used it, you can reach out to us as well. And as I said at the beginning, this was recorded, so we'll be sending a link to that recording out in an email, and it'll also include that demo link in case you don't get it from the chat here. And you can, share it with your boss, share it with your colleagues, tell them how awesome Rehearsal is and how much you should definitely start using it. Micah and Dominic, thank you so much for being here today and taking the time to show this to all of us. I learned a lot. I think our attendees learned a lot. And for all of you who joined us today, thank you so much for coming. We love having you on our webinars and getting a chance to talk to you about learning and new technologies. So we will see you all on our next webinar and have a great rest of your afternoon. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you, everybody. Thanks, Stephanie.